Hello, my wonderful students. Today, you'll learn how to sound more advanced and natural in English, plus you'll learn how to understand native English speakers. You'll do that by adding the top 50 phrasal verbs that native speakers actually use. To make this lesson more engaging, interactive, and challenging, first I'm going to quiz you. Then you'll learn all the phrasal verbs, and then I'll quiz you again. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Question 1. I really, because my new kitten is so cuddly. Now, I'll only give you 3 seconds to answer the question, so if you need more time, hit pause, take as much time as you need. I really lucked out. Question 2. If we, the deal now, we'll lose our deposit. If we back out of. Question 3. Your presentation is only 10 minutes, so make sure you don't ramble on. Question 4. We only have 2 days to fix all these errors. I don't know how we'll pull it off. Question 5. All travelers have to the COVID rules and regulations. Have to abide by. Question 6. I once saw Brad Pitt in a restaurant, but and couldn't even say hello. But I clammed up. Question 7. If everything, we'll finish the project tomorrow. If everything pans out. Question 8. The meeting was so long and boring, I'm surprised I didn't nod off. Question 9. It just that tomorrow's our anniversary. It just dawned on me. And question 10. The proposal looks good, but let's take the afternoon before we decide. To mull it over. Now, if you want more support to help you feel comfortable and confident using phrasal verbs, you can join the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium membership program where we study native English speakers, and you'll learn the most common phrasal verbs, idioms, and expressions. And you'll have me as your personal coach to answer any questions you have and to give you feedback. So you can look in the description for the link to join the Finally Fluent Academy today. So how did you do with that quiz? Was it easy, difficult? Share your score in the comments below, and now I'll explain every phrasal verb in detail. Number 1, to abide by. This is more of a formal phrasal verb because it's used when you accept or follow a rule or regulation. So we use it mainly with government rules, court rules, even business rules as well. For example, as a tourist, you have to abide by the rules of the country you're visiting. So if you see a sign that says no parking, you have to abide by that rule. You have to follow that rule. Now remember, we also use this to say you simply accept. You accept, but then you follow it. For example, let's say you go to court because of a dispute, and the court doesn't rule in your favor. You still have to abide by that decision. You have to accept it and then follow it. So this is a more formal phrasal verb, but it's very useful because we all have to abide by many different rules, regulations, and policies. Number 2, to dawn on. This is an excellent phrasal verb to add to your daily vocabulary. To dawn on is when you finally realize or understand something. For example, one day it just dawned on me that I need to change careers. So one day I just realized I need to change careers. So you can absolutely say realize. We're just using the phrasal verb dawn on, and it's extremely common. Now, notice the sentence structure here. It dawned on me. Something dawns on someone. So the it is the realization. It dawned on me that I need to change careers. So just keep that in mind because the sentence structure is commonly used with it, dawns on, and then someone. Number 3, to pull off. This is also a must-know phrasal verb. When you pull something off, you're able to do something that is difficult or unlikely to do. For example, let's say you're a wedding planner and a couple comes to you and tells you they want to have this huge 300-person wedding in 3 weeks. And they want you to plan everything. That's really difficult, and it might even be unlikely that you're able to plan a 300-person wedding in 3 weeks. So you could say, I don't know if I can pull that off. I don't know if I can do that because it's very difficult. I don't know if I can pull that off. That being planning the 300-person wedding. Now, let's say you do successfully plan the wedding. After, you could say, I can't believe I pulled that off. I can't believe I pulled off planning a 300-person wedding in only 3 weeks. Number 4, to back out of. This is an excellent business phrasal verb. It's used when you fail to keep a commitment or a promise. Now, in a business context, a commitment could be something you agreed to or arranged to. It can be formal and you have a contract in place, or it could be more informal and you just agree to it verbally. So if you don't keep that commitment, then you back out of it. For example, I can't believe the client backed out at the last minute. Now notice here, I just said backed out. I didn't use the of. We only use the of when you specify the noun, the something. I can't believe the client backed out of the agreement, the project, the plan, the proposal at the last minute. Number 5, to clam up. This is an excellent phrasal verb for all of you or anyone that does public speaking, because when you clam up, you're unable to speak, usually because of fear or nervousness. But this can also be used if you simply refuse to speak for whatever reason. For example, I always clam up when I'm public speaking. When I'm public speaking, I become unable to get the words out. You clam up. Now, my advice to you is if you feel like you're going to clam up, just take a deep breath. Number 6, to mull over. When you mull something over, you think about it or you consider it. And the something you're mulling over is simply an idea, a proposal, a suggestion, and you mull it over. You think about it, you consider it. So let's say you're in a meeting and a client or colleague suggests a new tool to use, and you need to think about it. So you could say, give me a few days to mull it over and I'll get back to you. To mull it over. The it being using the tool, purchasing the tool, whatever you're going to do. Give me a few days to mull it over. Now you can also specify the noun and you can say, I need to mull the deal over before I commit. Number 7, to pan out. This is an extremely common phrasal verb. To pan out simply talks about how a situation develops. For example, I'm not sure how this merger will pan out. So the situation here is the merger. And we're talking about, well, how's the merger going to go? How's it going to develop? Will it be positive? Will it be negative? Will there be challenges or difficulties, benefits? That's how the situation develops. So here I'm saying, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the merger will pan out. Now let's say the merger has some difficulties or challenges. You could say the merger didn't pan out, didn't develop. The merger didn't pan out as we had expected. Number 8, to ramble on. This is an excellent one for all you public speakers because when you ramble on, you talk at length without getting to the point. So let's say I rambled on for 5 minutes trying to explain the definition of ramble on, and at the end, you didn't understand it at all, and you're confused, you're a little annoyed because I wasted your time. I rambled on. So this is used as a negative, and it's used when you're communicating an idea. So we generally use this as a complaint. The speaker rambled on for 20 minutes. Number 9, to nod off. This is when you fall asleep, but it's when you fall asleep usually for a very short period of time and usually when you're not supposed to. So this isn't when you go to bed at the end of the night, okay? So let's say you're in a meeting at work and your colleague is rambling on and the topic is very boring and you start doing this. That is nodding off. And this motion of your head, what I'm doing, this is the verb to nod. Nod your head. So when you fall asleep, what do? You nod your head. So that's where this phrasal verb to nod off comes from. And remember, we use this for short periods of time, usually when you're not supposed to fall asleep. For example, when you're driving. So I might say, I always listen to loud music when I'm driving at night, so I don't nod off. And number 10, I love this phrasal verb, to luck out. When you luck out, you're very lucky in a specific situation. So let's say there's this major sale on the new iPhone model and they're selling for 50% off and you go to the store and you get the very last one. You could say, I can't believe I lucked out and got the new iPhone for 50% off. You lucked out. You were very lucky in this specific situation. Or let's say you're driving during rush hour and you're going to an appointment and you get a parking spot right in front of the office. In rush hour, downtown, you can say, I can't believe I lucked out and got such an amazing parking spot. Or if you're telling that story to a friend, I got this parking spot right in front of the building downtown during rush hour. They could say, wow, you really lucked out. You really lucked out by getting that parking spot. Now that you feel more comfortable with the phrasal verbs, let's do that exact same quiz again so you can see how much progress you made. So here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Hit pause and compare your answers to the correct answers. Question 1, she's just really good at basketball. She's not showing off. Question 2, it's hard to meditate when my kids keep barging in. Question 3, we've been friends for 20 years. I'm not going to let this come between us. Question 4, it's amazing how fast the company after the pandemic. The company bounced back. Question 5, I need to call the garage. My car's been all week. My car's been acting up. Question 6, his speech didn't. The urgency of the situation. His speech didn't get across. Question 7, Jess can close any deal. We can count on her. Question 8, I can't give you the day off tomorrow, but I can by letting you leave early. I can make it up to you. Question 9, they said the price is too high, but give them a week, they'll come around. Question 10, my boss always makes me stay late. I don't know why I put up with it. How'd you do with the quiz? Share your score in the comments below, and don't worry if it was difficult, because now I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail. Number 1, to come around to an opinion or an idea. And this means to change your opinion or to see a new point of view. Now notice the sentence structure, because we have 2 prepositions, around and to, and then after to, we need something. We need a noun, an opinion, or an idea. For example, I came around to the new job after I heard about the benefits package. So remember, this means you changed your opinion. So previously, you didn't want the new job, but now you've come around to it. So you've changed your opinion. Now you want the new job because you heard about the benefits package. We commonly use this without the preposition to and without specifying the something when the something has already been mentioned. For example, at first, I didn't want to move to Boston, but I came around after I visited. So notice, I didn't say I came around to something because the something had already been mentioned. So I came around to the idea after I visited. Number 2, to get across a point or a message. And this is when you clearly and effectively communicate a point or a message. For example, make sure you get across that the project is over budget. So if you're having a meeting with a client and your boss has this very particular message or idea, the project is over budget, and your boss wants you to communicate that in a clear, effective way. Your boss wants to make sure you get that across. Now, we also use this when you're talking, and the ideas aren't really coming out very well. And after a while, you stop and you say, what I'm trying to get across is, and then you state your point. What I'm trying to get across is the project is over budget. Number 3, to show off. This is when you deliberately display your skills or abilities in a way to impress other people. Now, this is frequently used in the negative. Don't show off. Don't show off. but there's definitely a time and a place when you want to show off. For example, when you're going to a job interview, you shouldn't be modest. You should show off your skills and abilities. You should talk about all your awards, your accomplishments, your degrees, the compliments you've received. You want to show off all of your experience to the interviewer. So an interview is the perfect time to show off. Also, if you're going for your IELTS exam, you don't want to be modest with your knowledge of the English language. You want to show off your abilities by using a range of grammatical structures and a range of phrasal verbs and idioms and expressions. You want to show off to the interviewer. Number 4, to count on. Now, this is exactly the same as to rely on or to depend on. So you have 3 different phrasal verbs, all with on, that mean the exact same thing. And this is, of course, when you trust someone or something to complete a specific task or objective. For example, I can always count on Selma to stay late. So you can trust Selma to complete the specific task or objective, which is to stay late. And remember, you could replace this with rely on. I can always rely on Selma. Or depend on. I can always depend on Selma. Now, we frequently use this in a question response. For example, can I count on you? Can I count on you to close the deal? And then you can reply back and say, absolutely, you can count on me. Number 5, to come between. Now, this is when something disturbs a relationship. And that relationship can be a professional relationship, a social relationship, romantic, family relationship. It can be any kind of relationship. For example, Jacob and Marcus were best friends until Sylvie came between them. So that's the image you could have. They were close, Jacob and Marcus, but then Sylvie came between them and now they're divided. Sylvie disturbed their relationship. Now, it's very common for a girl or a guy to come between a relationship, but it doesn't have to be a person. It could be that Jacob and Marcus were very close, but the promotion came between them. The new job came between them. Their family came between them. Their politics came between them. Their religion came between them. It could be anything came between them. Money is a good one as well that comes between people in relationships. And remember, you can use this in any type of relationship. Number 6, to put up with something or someone. And notice this is a 2 preposition phrasal verb, put up with. Put up with. And we use this to say that you tolerate bad behavior or unwanted behavior, to put up with. For example, I don't know how you put up with your boss. I don't know how you tolerate your boss. Now, of course, we can be more specific and specify the action that the boss does. I don't know how you put up with your boss's constant criticism, for example, or your boss's distasteful jokes, for example. I don't know how you tolerate it. Now, we commonly use this to say, I'm not going to put up with, and then the behavior. I'm not going to put up with your constant criticism any longer. Number 7, to bounce back. Now, to bounce back, this is when you recover or recuperate. Now, you can use this when you recover from a negative situation in a business context, like for example, a bad sales quarter or a bad product launch, for example. But it can also be when you recover or recuperate from an illness. So you can use it in both those situations. For example, in a workplace situation, you could say, I don't know how we'll bounce back from our loss in Q2. So I don't know how we'll recover. And then you could have a discussion. How can we bounce back? Does anyone have any ideas on how we can bounce back? Now, in terms of recovering or recuperating from an illness, you could say, it took me a while to bounce back after my surgery. So it took me a while to recover, recuperate. Number 8, to act up. This means to behave badly or strangely. This is very commonly used with parents describing the actions of their young children or even their older children. My son keeps acting up, behaving badly. But we can also use this with devices and objects. For example, my computer keeps acting up, behaving strangely. My computer keeps acting up. I hope it doesn't break. Number 9, to make it up to someone. This is quite a long one, so pay attention to this sentence structure. To make it up to someone. Now, we use this when you try to compensate for a wrongdoing. For example, let's say it's your best friend's birthday and you can't go for whatever reason. So this is the wrongdoing, not going to your best friend's birthday party. Now, if you want to compensate for that wrongdoing, you could say, I'm so sorry, I can't make your birthday party. I promise I'll make it up to you. I'll make it up to you by taking you out for a nice dinner. I'll make it up to you by going to the movies with you. I'll make it up to you by buying you a really nice present. So those are the ways you're going to compensate. Now you might be wondering, what is this it? The make it up to someone? We use it with it because what you're trying to compensate for has already been explained, so you don't have to say it again. Now, you can use this in a business context. Let's say you went over budget on a client's project, and you might say to your team, how are we going to make it up to the client? How are we going to compensate for our wrongdoing? The wrongdoing is you went over budget. And then maybe someone would suggest we can make it up to them by offering a discount or offering a free product, offering an extra service. So those are how you're going to compensate for the wrongdoing, to make it up to someone. Number 10, to barge in. When you barge in, you enter a place, a location unexpectedly, and you interrupt whatever's taking place. For example, I was in my office working and this kid just barged in and handed me his CV. But later, I hired him. So by saying the kid barged in, it implies that he didn't have an appointment, he wasn't expected, he just barged in unexpectedly and he interrupted whatever I was working on. But in this case, it was successful because he got the job. Now that you understand these phrasal verbs a lot better, let's do that exact same quiz from the very beginning again. Here are the questions for the quiz. You need to complete each sentence using the correct phrasal verb. So go ahead and hit pause now and complete the quiz. Here are the correct answers. Go ahead and hit pause and see how well you did. Question 1, you've been arguing for months. You need to make up. Question 2, I said we need to diversify our product line and I stand by that. Question 3, I always have a cup of tea at night to help me after a busy day. To help me wind down. Question 4, my girlfriend is studying abroad and I'm really aching for her. Question 5, your suit doesn't look comfortable. Why don't you? Something more comfortable. Why don't you slip into? Question 6, it's getting late, so I'm going to turn in. Question 7, Salma took this job to her accounting experience. To beef up. Question 8, have you, who's going to give the presentation? Have you nailed down? Question 9, sometimes it's easier to a trained professional. To open up to. Question 10, the party was fun, but when they started talking about politics. But I zoned out. So how did you find that quiz? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Don't worry, because I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail and it will definitely be easy by the end of the lesson. So let's do that now. To ache for, to ache for. This is a very nice romantic phrasal verb. Now we really use this in the context of a romantic relationship, so make sure you use that appropriately. And to ache for something or someone is when you really, really want that something or someone. For example, he was lonely and aching for love. So this is perhaps a little more of a poetic phrasal verb. You will probably hear it in novels, stories, movies, TV. He was aching for love. So maybe you won't use that in your vocabulary, but you'll likely hear it in romance movies or romance novels. Now, you may be more likely to use ache for someone. Let's say your husband is overseas on a business trip and he'll be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. You might say, I'm aching for my husband. So if you're talking to your friends, your family, even your colleagues, you could say, oh, I'm really aching for my husband. He's been gone for 2 weeks already. Number 2, to beef up. This is a fun one. When you beef something up, you make it stronger or more important. Now, we do use this in the context of bodybuilders, and they can beef themselves up, become more muscular. So you can use that in a fitness context, but we also use this in more of a business context, perhaps surprisingly, because you might say, I need to beef up my resume. I need to make my resume stronger or more important. I need to beef up my communication skills, for example. Number 3, to make up. And in this context, we're talking about to make up with someone. To make up with someone is when you forgive someone after an argument or a dispute. In a family context, young kids argue a lot, right? And older kids too. But you might say to your son, your daughter, you need to make up with your sister. You need to make up with your brother. You need to make up with your cousin or a friend, and you list a specific person, which means you need to forgive that person. Stop being angry at that person. Stop fighting with that person. So we definitely use this in a social context, a family context, but you can absolutely use this in a professional context. Coworkers fight as well. There are disagreements in companies. So you might say to one coworker, Sally, you need to make up with Mark. You work on the same team. You have to get along. You need to make up with each other. Number 4, to nail down. This is when you understand the exact details of something, or you get a firm decision on something. So let's say you're planning a conference and you have a general idea of the conference. It will take place in summer. It will be on this general topic or theme. But when are the exact dates? What specific topics? Who specifically will be the keynote speaker? Who specifically will be presenting? Who will you hire to cater the conference? You need to nail down those details. So you need to either understand the exact details, or you need to make a firm decision on who's going to cater, when the conference will exactly take place. So that's a very useful phrasal verb, and you can use it in a business context or a social context. Number 5, to open up. When you open up to someone, you talk very freely about your feelings or your emotions, things that make you quite vulnerable, things you probably don't share with everybody. For example, after years, she finally opened up about his death. So for many years, there was this tragic death perhaps, and she didn't really talk about it. She didn't talk about her feelings about the death. But then after years, she opened up. She started talking freely about how she felt, the circumstances, how she's dealing with it, those types of things, her inner feelings and emotions. Now notice I didn't use to someone. I could say she opened up to her family about his death. So you have about and then the specific topic, and to and the specific people. You'll commonly hear people say, I've never opened up to anybody like this before. If someone says that to you, they're basically saying they feel very comfortable around you. They feel like they can share their inner thoughts, feelings, emotions. And that's a very positive thing. It shows you have a very close relationship. Number 6, to slip into something. Now this is when you quickly put on a piece of clothing. So this is a very specific phrasal verb. It's only used with clothing. Now, for example, this shirt is quite pretty, isn't it? But let's be honest, it's not the most comfortable shirt. So after I'm done recording this video, I'm going to slip into a t-shirt. I'm going to put on a t-shirt. Or if it's first thing in the morning and you're in your house coat, but then you hear your doorbell, you might quickly slip into some sweatpants and answer the door. So it's simply another way to say put on. Number 7, to stand by something. When you stand by something, it's used to show that you still support or believe something. So I might say we stand by our opinion that interest rates need to increase. So that's my opinion, that's my belief. Interest rates need to increase. I stand by that. I still support that. I still believe that. So you'll hear this a lot from people in power, politicians, executives in business. They'll have an opinion, have a belief, and then they'll state, I stand by that, to let you know they still believe that specific opinion.
Do you stand by that, and if so, why? I stand by that. Yes, I stand by that. And the reason simply is,
now, we also use this with stand by someone. When you stand by someone, it means that you support someone, usually when something negative has happened. So let's say that your coworker was accused of stealing from the company, but you know your coworker didn't do it. You might say, I stand by her. I stand by her, which means you're going to support her in this difficult time. Number 8, to wind down. To wind down. This is an excellent phrasal verb because it means to relax after a busy or stressful day. So you might say, I always read at the end of the day to wind down. To help me wind down, I always read at the end of the day, or I go for a walk after work to wind down. So it just means to relax, but it's another way of saying it, and it implies that you were very busy or stressed out, to wind down. Number 9, to zone out. This is when you stop paying attention for a short period of time. Now, we've all done this, especially when we were kids in school and your teacher's talking and you just zone out. Now, generally people zone out because they don't have interest in a particular topic. For example, whenever people talk about sports, I zone out. I just stop listening and I start thinking about something else in my own head and I'm not listening to the conversation about sports. I zone out. I stop paying attention. But then when the conversation changes, I'll pay attention again. So it's always for that short period of time. Number 10, to turn in. This is a very useful phrasal verb because it simply means to go to bed. It's another way of saying to go to bed, and it's very common. So of course you can say, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. But you can also say, I'm tired, I'm going to turn in. I'm going to turn in. And it's extremely commonly used, so I suggest you use it. You can use it as a suggestion. Hey, it's getting late and you have that job interview tomorrow. You should turn in. You should go to bed. Or you can use it in question form as well. What time did you turn in? What time did you go to bed? Now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do that exact same quiz again and you can see how much you've improved. So here are the questions. Of course, hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play and I'll share the answers. So you can go ahead and hit pause now. How'd you do on that quiz? Well, let's find out. Here are the answers. Go ahead and hit pause and figure out how you did. Question 1. I used to play video games every day, but eventually I grew out of it. Question 2. Do you know why Sarah of the meeting earlier today walked out of the meeting? Question 3, can you add mustard to the shopping list? I just used it up. Question 4, you should your old books to your community store. You should give away. Question 5, the bridge is because there was an accident. The bridge is blocked off. Question 6, my boss said we can with canceling the contract. We can go ahead. Question 7, my company using cell phones during work hours. My company frowns on. Question 8, I'm sorry I at you during the meeting. I overreacted. Lashed out. Question 9, can you help me? This error? Sort out. Question 10. The presentation was really long, so for a bit. So I wandered off. So how did you do with that quiz? Was it easy or was it difficult? Well, now I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail. Number 1, to block off. This is when you obstruct an exit to prevent people from leaving. This is a very common phrasal verb because on your daily commute to work, you may have to take a detour, which means take an alternative route because your regular exit is blocked off. So let's say you get to work 15 minutes late. You can say, sorry, I'm late. Main Street was blocked off. And most likely that street or exit is blocked off because of construction. It's also possible that there was an accident, or perhaps there's something like a parade or a protest that's preventing people from using that exit. Number 2, to lash out. When you lash out, it means you react angrily. You react with very strong negative emotion. So this phrasal verb is negative and it's used in a negative way. So you might say, she lashed out when I suggested a different approach. So you shared an opinion and the person reacted very negatively, very angrily. They lashed out. Now for this phrasal verb, it's very common to say at someone. She lashed out at me when I suggested a different approach. The at someone is optional. You don't need to do it, but it can be very useful to specify who. So if you want to specify the person, then we use at someone. She lashed out at Jim. She lashed out at us. It could be the entire group. She lashed out at the client. And then you can explain the reason why. She lashed out at the client because the payment was late. Number 3, to walk out. When you walk out, it means you leave a place angrily. So we have another phrasal verb with angrily. You leave a place angrily. So let's say you're meeting with your boss to discuss your performance. Now, maybe you were expecting a 20% raise. A raise is a pay increase, a 20% pay increase, but your boss only offered you 2%. You might say, after my boss offered me 2%, I walked out. So you left the room, you left the office, the meeting, but you didn't just leave, you left angrily. Angrily, that's the key here. So combining our last phrasal verb, to lash out, to react angrily, we can say, after she lashed out at me, I walked out. Number 4, to sort out. This means to resolve a problem. Now we can use this with a business professional problem. For example, let's say your payment processor isn't working and you can't accept payments. You might say, we need to sort this out ASAP. We need to resolve this problem ASAP. Or who can we call to sort this out? So you can absolutely use this in a professional business context when there's a problem. We commonly use this with personal issues, with relationship issues, when you have a problem with another person. So let's say you and your sister haven't spoken in months because of a disagreement. Maybe your sister lashed out at you and then you walked out of her birthday party and you haven't spoken since. Well, someone might suggest some ways you can sort it out. You need to sort it out with your sister. You need to resolve the problem. And in this case, the problem is a personal problem. So this is a great phrasal verb to use for a business context and a personal context. Number 5, to use up. This is when you finish or consume 100% of something. So all of something. And that's very important because I could say, I used the olive oil. So I consumed the olive oil. But when I just say use, it doesn't tell you how much olive oil did I use. I used the olive oil. But if I say I used up the olive oil, then you know I used 100% of the olive oil, so there is none left for you or for someone else, and you have to get more. So I could say I used all the olive oil. When I say all the olive oil, all means 100%, so that is exactly the same as I used up the olive oil. Number 6, to wander off. This is when you leave a place when you're not supposed to, or you leave a place without telling other people. Now, this is commonly used with children. So a mother might say, I have to watch my daughter like a hawk, or she'll wander off. So little kids, they might not stay in a room. They might wander off and go into another room. But of course, that can be dangerous if nobody is watching that child. So this is commonly used with young children, but we can also use it with adults. So let's say you're on a museum tour and you're in a foreign country on a museum tour. Now, you're supposed to stay with the museum tour. You're not supposed to wander off and just go look at other areas of the museum. But you might say, the tour was boring, so I wandered off. Number 7, to grow out of. This is when you lose interest in something. So to lose interest, you're no longer interested in something because you're older or more mature. For example, a lot of young kids play video games for hours and hours and hours. But as an adult, you might grow out of it. So you no longer do that. You no longer play video games for hours and hours and hours because you're older, you're more mature. Number 8, to go ahead. This means to proceed. This is a very useful phrasal verb. We use it commonly to give someone permission to do something. So your coworker might ask you, is it okay if I send the email to the client? And you can say, sure, go ahead, which means proceed. Proceed with sending the email. Go ahead. Now you can just say go ahead, period, or you can specify what the action is. You can say go ahead and send the email, or go ahead with, and we need a gerund. Go ahead with sending the email. And send the email with sending the email. So pay attention to that sentence structure. Number 9, to give away. This means to provide for free. So this is a great phrasal verb. For me, I could say, I give away my best tips and advice on how to become fluent right here on this YouTube channel. Now, let's say you have a lot of items from your kids, but your kids are grown up now, but you have a lot of their clothes, their toys, even furniture for your kids. You might want to give that away. So you can provide it to another parent or someone else, for free. We gave away all our kids' clothes when they moved out. So when you want to get rid of something in your house, you can sell it or you can give it away, provide it for free. And finally, number 10, to frown on. This means to disapprove of something. So you might say, my boss disapproves of casual clothes. So you can say, my boss frowns on wearing casual clothes. Notice our sentence structure, frowns on wearing. We need our gerund verb. Now that you feel more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do the exact same quiz again so you can see how much you've improved. Here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, compare your answers, and when you're ready, hit play. Question 1, we should the party with some karaoke. We should kick off. Question 2, you don't need to. Your team, I've heard great things about them. Talk up. Question 3, make sure your team doesn't while the CEO is here. Horse around. Question 4, it really, when Jeremy took credit for my work. Ticked me off. Question 5, he's been since he lost the contract. Moping around. Question 6, we're on a tight budget, but we have enough to get by. Question 7, the expense reports have been since Sarah left. Piling up. Question 8, I've learned to my mother when she gives me relationship advice. Tune out. Question 9, she used to be very serious, but she's a bit loosened up. Question 10, my boss is going to when she learns we lost the account. Flip out. So how did you do with that quiz? Don't worry if it was difficult because now I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail. Let's get started. Number 1, to tune out. This is a very useful phrasal verb because it's used to say you stop listening to someone, you stop paying attention to them because you don't like what they're saying, basically. So you tune someone out. This is something that kids do all the time with their parents, right? If your parent is giving you advice and you don't want to hear it, you just tune them out. So your parent is talking, but you're just not really listening. So you might say, I always tune out my mom when she gives me relationship advice. Now this can also happen a lot in a workplace situation. Let's say the coworker that sits beside you is just a very negative person and complains a lot. You might just simply tune them out. So you stop listening to them because you don't want to hear all that negativity and complaining. So you just tune them out. They're talking, but you're not listening. Number 2, to tick off. This is a useful one because it means to annoy, to anger, or to irritate. Now we use this in 2 very specific sentence structures. It ticks someone off. It ticks me off when my coworker doesn't help. So it ticks someone off, and then you explain the situation that causes the anger, the frustration, or the irritation. Now, the other sentence structure is just to say someone or something ticks me off. John really ticks me off. He's so negative. John really irritates me, frustrates me, annoys me. John really ticks me off. He's so negative, but I just tune him out. Number 3, to talk up. And you talk someone or something up. And that means you speak in a way that makes that someone or something sound really beneficial, really positive, really amazing, maybe even more so than the reality. So let's say you're in sales and you're trying to sell this piece of software to a company. Well, you're going to talk up that software. You're going to talk about that software in a way that really highlights all of its positive features. And you probably won't mention any negative features. You're going to talk it up. Or let's say that your really close friend applied for a job in your company. Well, you're probably going to talk up your friend. You're going to speak about your friend very enthusiastically, very positively, because you want your friend to get the job. You're going to talk up your friend. Number 4, to pile up. This means simply to increase in amount. And we generally use this with work. So in general, you could say work is really piling up. Work is increasing in amount. You can use this with specific work. So you might say, my expense reports are piling up. Or even with household chores, you might say the laundry is piling up. The dirty dishes are piling up. They're increasing in amount. Number 5, to mope around. To mope around, this is when someone moves from one location to another, but they do it in a very unhappy way, a lazy way, a disappointed way. And it's generally because something is wrong. Something specific is wrong. So maybe they just lost their job, or they just broke up with their girlfriend, so they mope around the house all day. They go from the couch to the kitchen, back to the couch, but they look really upset and lazy and no energy. So this isn't really a positive thing. We generally say, stop moping around. You need to stop moping around and start looking for a job. If that's the reason why you're moping around, because you lost your job. Stop moping around and look for a job. Number 6, to loosen up. This is a great one. It means to be more relaxed, more comfortable, or less serious. So you might say, she was very shy at first, but then she loosened up. So she became more relaxed, more comfortable. Now, we often use this as advice to someone. If someone is just being too serious, you might say, loosen up, loosen up. It's similar to saying, relax a little, loosen up. You need to loosen up. Oh, just loosen up. Number 7, to kick off. This is a great one because when you kick something off, it means you start. But we use this in the context of a sports event, a meeting, a conference, or even a party. So some sort of event with people. So in sports, it's very common to say the game, the match kicks off at, and then you say the time. The match kicks off at 3. The game kicks off at 7. And that's just when the game starts. Now, you could also say, let's kick off the meeting by, and then you can explain how you're going to start the meeting. Let's kick off the meeting by introducing the new CFO. Or let's kick off the meeting by sharing the good news. Number 8, this is a fun one, to horse around. When you horse around, you behave in a silly or noisy way. So basically what children do all the time, they horse around. But you might say, the kids were horsing around and they broke my favorite vase. Now, although this is commonly used in children, it can of course be used for adults as well, because adults act in silly and noisy ways all the time, right? Even in workplace contexts. So you might be talking about how your team is constantly horsing around. And as a bonus, you can also say goof around. It's an alternative, but they're both very commonly used. So horse around or goof around. Number 9, to get by. This is when you have just enough money to live on, but not very much extra. So you can basically pay all your bills and that's about it. So you might say, since our twins were born, it's been more difficult to get by. You have 2 new babies in the house. Well, first, congratulations, but of course that's very expensive. So now you only have enough money to pay your bills, to buy the food, buy the diapers, buy the groceries, pay your mortgage, things like that. We're getting by. We're getting by. You're just surviving. So if someone knows you're going through a tough time financially, maybe you lost your job and they ask you, how's it going? Is everything okay? You could say, well, I'm getting by. I'm getting by, which lets them know you're surviving. You have enough to pay all your core expenses. And finally, number 10, to flip out. Now this can mean to become very excited, but it can also mean to become very angry or agitated. So it's when you have a very strong emotion, but that emotion can be positive, excitement, or it can be negative, anger. And it will be obvious based on context. So if you just won a competition or a prize or the lottery, you might flip out and become very, very excited, right? The sports team flipped out when they won the gold medal. Or the team flipped out when they lost the game. The team became very angry. So you can use it in both situations. And for this expression, you can also say freak out. Freak out, flip out, they mean the same. And again, positive excitement or negative anger. So now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do that exact same quiz again so you can see how much you've improved. So here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Go ahead and hit pause and figure out how you did. Amazing job with this lesson. Now make sure you get your free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can download it from my website right here. And then when you're ready, get started with your next lesson.